You want to do the intro today?
No, I don't.
You don't?
No.
Oh, okay. Welcome into the Real Underrated Podcast. I'm your host, Joshua Holiday. With me, as always, is Mr. Timothy Beckman. And we are talking about forgotten movies, or movies that we hope don't get forgotten. And maybe we'll sprinkle in a couple that we hope never get seen ever again.
I mean, there's just so much content, like nowadays.
Well, nowadays especially.
Yeah, there's just so many movies that come out.
There's a blockbuster every week.
Right. And I really feel like that kind of started in the 80s, the real value. Because I think Star Wars kind of proved how big movies could be, how much you could really make off of them. And 80s is where you see the explosion of movies. And there's so much.
You had a lot
there.
of action movies, too.
Well, yeah. I mean, again, coming off of Star Wars, it's giving people what they thought they wanted at the time. I mean, it's just... there was such an explosion there that there's just so much stuff that just gets forgotten because it didn't stand out quite enough.
I mean, I completely agree with you. There's a lot of movies. Actually, there was one not too long ago. One of my favorite action movies, and of course it's action, but Edge of Tomorrow. Mm-hmm. Just kind of, it didn't really have that Tom Cruise box office takeoff that people thought it would, just because it involved Tom Cruise. It's still a really, really good movie. But nobody went and saw it, at the time. I think it barely made its money back. It wasn't a bomb, luckily. But there's a lot of movies like that through the decades. There has been movies that just get lost in the shuffle.
Yeah.
And
it's really criminal to see. I mean, especially like, I know a few of the movies I'm going to bring up today are movies that are like from directors that are big now and some of their first projects that were still pretty good. Just not really talked about. I mean, this is a bad example because it's actually, I hope, is a well-received and remembered movie, but Reservoir Dogs for Quentin Tarantino. Fantastic film, but I don't put it near on the level as Pulp Fiction because I think everybody kind of knows what Pulp Fiction is. If I say what again, you're going to kind of know what I'm talking about,
right.
I would
Royale
think.
with cheese.
Right. Like, I mean...
shit, I shot Marvin in the face.
Yeah, but you're not going to remember me if I say, what's up, Mr. Pink, or some shit like that. Like... You're not gonna,
I would.
I mean, yeah.
Right. But yes, the general public are not going to look at it and be like, what the hell are you talking about?
I mean, I'll throw like a great example. So this is something that I kind of want to talk about too is, these movies that exist, they influence pop culture so much that we still kind of remember them in some way. Psycho.
Dead people.
Yeah. I mean, that's one that's going to be forever ruined because everybody talks about the end of that movie. If you haven't seen it, you're like, oh my God, you haven't seen it? It's going to blow you away.
Trust me, Sarah saw 51st Dates with me. I made sure because I love that movie. And there's a line in that movie where Drew Barrymore goes, I can't believe it. Bruce Willis was a ghost. And it shocked me too. And then I showed her The Sixth Sense and she was blown away. She was like, what is this? And I was just like, this has been referenced many a times.
Right. I mean, there's a lot out there.
But Psycho, the shower scene.
Right. I think another big one, and this is pop culture just shining through, would be John Hughes films. I mean, all of them are easily recognizable.
Well,
and
not all of them. Uncle Buck gets no limelight whatsoever compared to some of his other movies. Or Planes, Trains, and Automobiles doesn't get as much limelight.
Like... They're not remembered like as John Hughes films,
right?
Like that's the problem.
They're remembered as fun comedies.
Like Uncle Buck is remembered as a John Candy movie. Yeah. Like, and that's just it.
Same with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Right. I mean, it's not in the John Hughes realm because it just doesn't exactly feel like those other movies.
They're feel good movies, but they're not like a coming of age story or anything
which
like
is
that.
kind of what he popularized.
Right. That was John Hughes. That was his signature.
Right.
It's a coming of age story. Is that a John Hughes movie?
I mean, but there's just so much out there. And there's one movie that I want to talk about. I'm pretty sure you haven't seen it.
Which is?
It came out in 1996. It's called Freeway.
Never even heard of it.
Okay. It's a movie that I think really gets forgotten.
Is it the sequel to Speed?
No. That was called Speed 2.
Yeah, I know. That's a travesty.
It is quite awful, but it's on boats, so it's so much better. Whatever. But anyway, Freeway is I think it's an interesting one to point out because I want to say it stars Reese Witherspoon, who I would argue is kind of a forgotten actress a little bit.
100%, yes.
Like she was so good in this film
Was she good, or was she Reese Witherspoon good?
No, she was
actually
good.
genuinely
She was
good.
good. She was not like the typical Reese Witherspoon. I mean, she's dropping F-bombs in the film. Essentially, what the film is about is it's a retelling of Little Red Riding Hood.
Okay. But with highways.
Yeah. So what ends up happening is I can't remember her name, but so Reese Witherspoon's character, her parents she was a foster kid or something like that. And her parents get arrested for possession and selling of drugs and stuff like that. So she decides to go find her grandmother, her long lost grandmother, and go drive out to go find her.
Okay, so it is a stretch to say it is Little Red Riding Hood.
And then she gets, her car breaks down, and she gets picked up with this guy named something Wolferton. And
sounding a lot like The Wiz.
Yeah, and he's like, he's a serial killer or something like that, and she rides with him trying to get to her grandma's, and it's all about her kind of, like, honestly, it's one of those movies where I look at it and like, this is kind of one of the premier ways that you see a strong female lead, and like how they can actually be portrayed in a good way. And Reese Witherspoon did an awesome job at that.
So this is one of the movies that should not be forgotten.
Oh yeah,
from time.
But I feel like
it's already been forgotten,
right? Because I mean, I'm talking to you, and you don't know. Probably 90%, like besides Mike, everybody else has probably forgotten this movie.
Yeah, Mike 100% knows that movie.
Like,
he knows who did the screenplay on that movie,
right? But I mean, it's such a fantastic movie, and I mean, I don't want to go into it because there's a lot of twists in the movie. It's a really, really good movie. But I mean, it's just one that got forgotten because it wasn't one that was going to be up for an Academy Award. It wasn't going to have the same spotlight as other movies.
And that I was going to bring that up a little bit later. But Academy Awards, genuinely, the Best Picture or something that's nominated for Best Picture usually was a flop at the box office. It's something that is a artsy type movie. And I think a lot of those get remembered because of their nomination or because of their win. And I'm not hating on them. You know what I mean? They're there for a reason. But those movies are the lucky ones. They're not every movie's going to make it up there. You know what I mean? There's good movies that aren't Oscar-worthy movies that are still very, very much enjoyable.
I still think there's plenty of movies that won an Oscar or were even nominated
that
for it.
That didn't deserve it.
That either didn't deserve it, but also they've been completely forgotten about. It doesn't matter anymore.
No Country for Old Men?
I don't know if I'd say that one.
I don't know anybody that brings it up.
I mean, the
Brokeback Mountain? Didn't that win an Oscar?
I think it was at least nominated. I don't know if it won or not.
I think it was Best Actor. I don't think it was Best Movie.
But I mean, like, The English Patient is one I would like to bring up. I mean, who the hell cares about that movie at all?
The King's Speech.
I never saw it, to be honest with you.
It was good. It was not bad. I mean, it's all about him dealing with a stutter, which is not a, if I told you, hey, I want to make a movie about a guy that stutters a lot, it doesn't sound like a compelling thing.
Right. I mean, but there's movies that, I mean, there's one I actually was going to talk about that actually won the Oscar for its year, but it was back in the 70s. The Sting was a movie that, again, see?
Well, see, I only go back so far. Like, my oldest movie that I have on here is from 1986, and it's a fucking Steve Guttenberg movie. You know what I mean?
Steve Guttenberg.
Yeah, my knowledge of movies is, usually, me, I like lighthearted movies. There's a few dramas that have really stuck with me, and I have one of them on the list that we're going to talk about later. But there's a few dramas that stuck with me over the years. But generally, for me at least, I look back at a lot of the ones I like City of Angels. I look back at that movie and I'm like, it's a really corny movie. But I enjoyed it for what it was. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of movie that I like. I'm not all for that artsy fartsy movie. You know what I mean? Christopher Nolan has kind of fallen out of grace for me. I get that he's a great director, but for me personally, I'm bored of his movies because they're all like, look at this. This is beautiful. Like, Interstellar was shot gorgeously, but I'm just like, I'm bored to tears. I don't care. Same thing with Inception. Gone back and watched Inception. It's a fine movie. It's not super compelling. You know what I mean? I'm just like,
I mean, there's something to be said for rewatchability on some movies, because some movies are not better when you rewatch them. Like, you're not going to get back the feeling
better,
right? But you're not, like, for a Christopher Nolan film, you're not going to have the same reaction the second time you watch it. It's not,
besides The Dark Knight. The Dark Knight is the only, I think, exception, not because it's Christopher Nolan, but because of Heath Ledger's performance.
I mean, my argument would be Memento, because every time I watch that movie, the ending kind of changes for me. Like, right. It's a little different every single time I watch it.
Your kind of feelings about the movie.
Right. And that's why I love that movie so much. I mean, it just
Well, I remember when you showed me and you told me it's one of your favorite movies of all time. I think at the time you said it was your favorite movie. We were like, this and The Big Lebowski can't be touched by anything else. And I was like, okay. And I watched it and I enjoyed it for what it was, but it was just, it's such a, and I don't want to call it artsy, but it is a weird movie.
Right.
You know, it has a weird premise. And if it was shot in chronological order, it probably wouldn't be that good of a movie, but because of the way they set it up and kind of give you that little twist to it, it makes it really compelling to watch.
Right. I mean, I enjoyed it so much. But yeah, I think I was talking about The Sting, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a fantastic movie.
Yeah, sorry to get you off track. My bad,
it's
dude.
totally fine. I mean, it has Paul Newman and I'm gonna forget the other guy's name.
You have an IMDb computer right there.
Yeah, I do, don't I? This is like the most upsetting thing ever.
See, and
it's the Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid. I can't remember.
You don't have to tell me about being upset about not remembering something. I don't remember what I ate this morning for breakfast.
Robert Redford.
Robert Redford. Okay.
Yeah.
So I don't remember what I ate this morning for breakfast. So when it comes to movies, I'm more interested in that than, remembering something as simple as a daily event. But we've been in the car and we're sitting there, we're like, oh, who was it? And we're like sitting there, we're like, don't check IMDb. We have to figure this out on our own. And then, 2 hours later, it's like, oh, hey, it was Brad Pitt. You're like, oh, okay, it's Brad Pitt. I get it.
Yeah, I hate that. Just that tip of the
It's
tongue.
a horrible feeling. Yeah. It's just a brain fart. You know what I mean? And you're just like, oh, God, this is the worst. But when it comes to movies, it hurts, especially when you've met someone new and it's new to talk about movies and they know movies too. And you're going back and forth and all of a sudden you forget something and you're like, I look like an idiot in front of this new person that I can talk about movies with. But yeah, I mean, I guess I can name off one of the movies that I have on my list.
Go right ahead.
So we're going to start from the oldest to newest. The first one I had on there was Short Circuit with Steve Guttenberg. And this might be, I probably need to go back and watch it, but this might be just a childhood classic to me. It's the same way I feel about The Goonies. The Goonies, I think, is a very good movie, but it's not for me right now. Like if The Goonies came out right now, it's not aimed towards me.
Right.
It's aimed towards that preteen, teen, go on an adventure type vibe. It's like Indiana Jones for kids. That's how I feel about Short Circuit, about a robot that gets struck by lightning and basically has a mind of its own, which we've seen done 1.5 million times. It's probably been done before Short Circuit, but it was a fun premise at the time as a kid watching that movie and enjoying it. And I think that if you have a kid, it'd be a good movie to show them. You know what I mean? Because they're not going to know. Kids don't know time eras of movies. You know what I mean? You can show them a movie from the 90s or the 80s and they can enjoy it. Wouldn't you say?
Yeah, but I mean, it wouldn't be a movie I'd show my kid.
Really?
No.
I'm not a big fan of Steve Guttenberg.
Not really, no.
I just like saying his name, Steve Guttenberg.
It's just, I don't think it's a good film, honestly.
That's fine.
And I can't get past the gimmicky robot.
Number 5?
Yeah, I can't do it. It's so off-putting for me.
But you wouldn't say the same about Wally.
Well, no, because Wally is the main character in a better way, I would say. Like he doesn't really have dialogue. He says his name.
Yeah.
And Eve.
That's fair. Yeah,
that's
he's
it.
not.
That's all his dialogue.
He says directive.
He doesn't say it. He's forced to say it.
Yeah.
He didn't choose to say that shit.
He didn't choose to say Eve either. He's trying his hardest. Okay, fine. How do you feel about my next movie, Airheads? Comedy from 1994.
I mean, I love that movie. Honestly, it's really funny. It's super enjoyable.
When did you get to watch it? Did you watch it as a kid, or did you watch it once you? Because I got to see it when I was like 15, 16 years old. I had no idea about it, and I was a huge fan of Adam Sandler, so I was like, "What is this?" And I saw it.
I'm pretty sure I watched it when I was a kid.
Okay. And you remember liking it?
Yeah, and I've seen it since.
Yeah, it still holds up.
Yeah,
for sure. It's a great. If you like Brendan Fraser, it's a great Brendan Fraser movie. If you like Adam Sandler, it's a great Adam Sandler movie. If you like Steve Buscemi, he's in the movie.
Not to get too far off topic. I mean, like Airheads is great, but it has Brendan Fraser in it, who I think is one of the biggest forgotten actors ever, and I really enjoy him.
He's making a comeback.
I really enjoy his movies. Like I was on Hulu the other day, and they had
Don't say it.
They had Blast from the Past on there.
Oh, okay, that's fine. They're gonna say Monkey Bone.
No, I mean,
don't you like Monkey Bone?
I enjoy it,
Yeah.
but I would
not a good movie.
I would never be like, yo, you need to check out Monkey Bone. It's not. I get what it is, but Blast from the Past was on there, and I don't know. That's one of those movies because you don't know what it is, do you?
What, Blast from the Past?
Yeah.
No, I have not seen it.
Oh, okay.
I enjoy Brendan Fraser, but I'm not seeking out Brendan Fraser things, Brendan Fraser projects.
So, I mean, this was back in I think this was filmed in either like late 80s, early 90s. And it was centered around the idea that his parents, Brendan Fraser's parents, Christopher Walken and some other woman, they went into a bomb shelter in the 60s during the Cuban Missile Crisis because a plane dropped on their garage.
I think I've actually seen this movie.
And so they come out...
And they think they're way in the future, where they're not. Or they think that
it's
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, and
post-apocalyptic.
Yeah, and then the elevator they have goes through this bar, and the dude who runs the bar ends up becoming like in love with them, like they're the saviors, they're Jesus. Adam, like it was great. But I was watching it and I was like, it's not a super amazing movie, but it really shows what was going on at the time. Like it for me, it reminded me so much of the 90s because I'm assuming that's when it was. Like, it doesn't make any sense. Again, I'm not looking at IMDb right now. It's not worth it. But it was so much fun to watch. It was kind of poorly acted.
1999.
99. Wow.
The perfect year for it to come out because of the Y2K stuff, right?
Right.
I'm assuming that's his daughter. Alicia Silverstone was in the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
She's the love interest.
Of Brendan Fraser?
Yeah.
Okay.
It made sense.
Did it?
Yeah.
Because he was born in 68, which makes him a year younger than my mom. And she was born in 76. I thought she was much closer to our ages.
No.
But apparently not. Okay.
No, it made sense. It was, I mean, I enjoy that movie, but I don't know if I'd even say it's really that good. Like,
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. There's movies that you can enjoy and is not very good. For example, one of the ones that are on my list is Starship Troopers. I highly recommend people watch this if they're into sci-fi, space movies, basically. Mm-hmm. It is, I don't know, it's almost a parody movie. I don't know if it was meant to be that way, but it feels...
Well, it's a book.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Don't. I don't read books. I get it.
Yeah. If you read books, you would know that.
Yeah. Well, it's a fun movie. Everything about it was fun. I think there was only one part where, because I saw it when I was a kid. I was really little when I saw it.
Me too.
And I was real sad when what's her name died.
Denise Richards.
Yeah, was it Denise Richards? I couldn't remember if it was Denise Richards or the other chick. So when Denise Richards,
she died too.
But she's not the one that got stabbed through the stomach.
No, Denise Richards didn't die. Yeah, the one you're talking about is the one that died.
Yeah,
I can't remember her name.
But in that movie, I was like, this is, when I was a kid, I was like, well, that sucks. You know what I mean? Because it had such a fun atmosphere. I never felt like they were in any real threat. You know what I mean? They didn't feel like the bugs were going to win. And it was cool because it was like one of the first, I want to say it's one of the first movies I saw with like neat computer animation. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It looks terrible to today's standards, but that almost adds to like the campiness of it, the campiness feel of it.
Right.
It's just a really fun movie. I really, really enjoyed that movie. Hell, it has a 7.2 on IMDb, which is not bad. Dina Meyer. That's the chick who died.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like one of the reasons why we say it's not a good movie is because the series that followed it, like Starship Troopers 2 and 3, were so bad that it kind of dampened on the first one too.
Well, it's kind of like...
I don't think it's forgotten, though. I think people still... I mean, I saw a meme with Starship Trooper stuff in it the other day.
Really?
I mean, yeah.
Well, see, I think memes revive a lot of things because there's some things that have been kind of dead. I mean, I don't know. I don't watch kids' cartoon channels anymore, but I'm sure they're not still rerunning Arthur, are they? Because I feel like
I'm pretty sure they are.
Are they?
Actually.
Okay, well then maybe they're not.
I heard something like either like it was like there's a first openly gay character on Arthur now, or
really?
Or transgender. It was something like that. Like I saw it the other day.
But it wasn't like a J.K. Rowling thing where they just added it to the original series.
I think
afterwards?
it's still running.
Okay, well then maybe I'm lying, but you know they had the fist meme, and I was like, they do bring back some stuff. I can't think of anything right now, but they bring back some stuff that you know is so obscure. Harry and the Hendersons. They had a meme for that where
I see a lot of Home Alone memes too.
Yeah,
I mean,
but Home Alone's not dead. Home Alone is very much remembered, and I think we were talking about this earlier. Because it's a Christmas movie, I honestly believe if it did not have a Christmas type setting, and that was the reason that the family left, it wouldn't be aired every Christmas, and it might have just been forgotten at the time.
Probably.
Because it could have came out around Christmas and still made that kind of profit that it did, and you know spawned the crappy sequels. But because it was a Christmas movie, now it gets played every single Christmas.
Like my argument to support your idea there is, if you take another movie, a kids movie from that generation, like Parent Trap. Imagine if Parent Trap was a Christmas movie.
Yes, it would be played every single Christmas.
Every single Christmas, and it would be much bigger than it is now. Even though it is still pretty big, even though it's a remake of a classic. But I mean,
but I don't know if it would be as fondly remembered because Home Alone is a genuinely fun movie to watch. Maybe Parent Trap's just not for me. I think if we're gonna go with Lindsay Lohan, I like Freaky Friday, but Parent Trap.
I was trying to go in the same era that Home Alone came out.
Okay, well, I'm just saying it's not because it's Lindsay Lohan.
I mean, because there's not a whole lot of kids movies you can really say have stood the test of time. Like some have
without nostalgia,
right?
Because you brought it up earlier also that I still enjoy The Little Rascals. You don't. I saw it when it came out, and I had it on VHS, and I watched it all the time. So
did I.
Really?
Yes.
And you still don't enjoy it?
No.
I thought you just didn't enjoy it because you saw it later than everybody else.
No. I watched it when I was a kid. I laughed when it was funny. But now, watching it now, it's bad.
Yeah, it's a bad movie, but I still enjoy it.
It's not funny to me at all. It is a waste of time.
It's a kid's movie. It's not meant for you.
Right. Which is why I don't watch it, and I don't understand why you watch it either. You're not a kid.
I'm 5 years old. Right here.
No, you're not.
In the brain. 5 years old, buddy.
That's not true. The government thinks you can drive.
They think. Excuse me, I keep coughing.
Does this also go around with the not reading books? You can't drive either. Can you not read signs?
Signs?
Signs. There's a movie that's not forgotten. Maybe should be.
So I wanted to defend that movie just then. I was going to say, it's not a bad movie. But it wasn't until you broke my heart because I very much enjoyed Signs. Mm-hmm. I thought it was a great movie, really cool premise. You know, it kept me on the edge of my seat. And then when you go, why would aliens who are allergic to water land on a planet that's primarily water? And I go, well, that fucking sucks. Kind of like when you ruined Back to the Future to me.
Yeah.
Which I have a decent argument against, but you know, it is what it is, I guess. I'll leave that at that.
I mean, it's kind of like War of the Worlds. Like
that's a terrible movie
with a terrible ending. Like I feel like if the twist,
the way, I agree. Like The Happening, where it's just as soon as they were here, they were gone. And I'm like, what? So there's no triumph moment. You know what I mean? Like Independence Day, there's a triumph moment when Randy Quaid flies his ship directly into the spaceship and I'm back. That is like a human moment where you feel triumph. You're just like, yes, we won. Suck it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah. And I get that. So when you have something where they're like, the big scene was the one alien, which I'm sure there's thousands, if not millions of aliens on the ships, right?
Right.
So you have the one alien, and for some reason, this kid's been leaving glasses of water all around the house because he's a little asshole and thinks the water's contaminated, whatever. And then the parent, Mel Gibson's so lazy to not pick up the glasses of water, whatever the reason the glasses of water are laying around, and for Joaquin Phoenix to start batting them, you know what I mean? Swing away, tell him to swing away. Like just, God, looking back at it, you can really tear down that movie. Just the coincidental things that have to happen for your plot to move along is beyond the suspension of disbelief.
No, I definitely agree.
That's unfortunate. But I feel like you could tear down any movie, but it's easier to pick at ones that have a major flaw. Yeah. If they have one major flaw, then you can start picking away at the paint of the movie.
This is what I think stems from how people get so pissed off at movies. I know we're supposed to be talking about like forgotten movies, but like talking about Signs and War of the Worlds and The Happening, like those endings, it really sucks when you have a very immersive movie. You buy into it, you get into it, and then they want to throw a twist in there, but it has no payoff. Like you've built to just nothing, and that's what pisses people off, I think. There's a movie that came out, I don't remember, it was a few years ago. I can't even remember the name of it. It was
Yes.
It was Jim from The Office.
John
Krasinski and Emily Blunt. It was
The Quiet Place.
The Quiet Place. I don't know if you watched it or not.
Yes, I saw it.
I saw it, and
I thought it was super okay.
I thought I was upset because it felt like the movie was all build, no payoff.
Well, the payoff was so quick. I thought it, if you haven't seen the movie, I don't know, skip the next 20 seconds, but when he screams from behind the truck to save his kids.
Right.
Totally okay with that. I get it. He's sacrificing himself, but he's just saving them time. And then the little girl somehow realizes that her hearing aid, which was the stupidest shit, it making a reverb noise, like melts the monster whenever they're in the basement, and she like cranks it up and the thing like opens up and then Emily Blunt shoots it in the face. I'm like, so basically anyone who's deaf can just win. You know what I mean? All they do is crank up their hearing aid. I feel like I was surprised they didn't do that early 2000s Alien movie where it kind of, zooms out of the Earth and it shows other people around the globe doing the same thing. And I'm just like, it was really dumb. It's kind of like how they had a very similar thing with Sandra Bullock's movie.
Gravity?
No, where you can't fucking Bird Box. Bird Box, at the end of Bird Box, you can't see these things. If you see them, they show you your greatest fear and you die. You kill yourself. At the end of that, you know what happens? Have you seen the movie? Okay. You know at the end of the movie what happens? They end up going to a blind person encampment. The blind people aren't affected by the demons because they can't see them. And I'm like, that is the stupidest shit. It was just like you said, it's so much buildup to no payoff.
And that's the thing that I really liked about Quiet Place is like they used sign language the entire time, which again built to the immersion of the story, and it made the build so much better. But it's super upsetting for a no payoff, especially how they were like leading into this big like some scene was about to happen with all the monsters that were coming in on the compound, and then it just fades to black, and you're like, well, no, I want to know. Like they had the baby. Like there was so much shit they just kept on piling on this to make it more suspenseful.
I like how we completely switched to just shitting on The Quiet Place. But my biggest problem with the Quiet Place wasn't even so much the ending. It was the fact that he took his kid out to the waterfall, and you see that because the waterfall is so loud, they can scream their heads off and the monsters won't come near because it doesn't know that they're there. I said, why don't you build your house there? You seem like a handy guy. You build all this other crap around your house, all like the red lights and stuff like that. I know it's not wood and stuff.
Because the monsters can't see the house.
Right. So why don't you... Because he built that thing underneath... I don't know if it was already built, but he put up the paper around or whatever to keep the sound out underneath his barn. Why don't you build something like that? And then I understand you have crops. You make the dangerous trip to go get the crops. You don't live there and then, go somewhere else where there's noise. I just thought it was kind of goofy.
Yeah. And I mean, it makes sense.
Right. Like, it does make sense. But they also have a point where I was like, when the water's rushing in, when she's having her baby, or I think she already had the baby and she had it in a little box.
Yeah. Baby in a box.
Yeah. It wasn't in a corner. No. But they had that point where she has the baby in the box and you see the water rushing in. And I was like, bet you she gets underneath that tiny little waterfall. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because like it already set up in the movie that because of the running water, the monster can't hear them. Yeah. And I was just like, that was like a little payoff, I guess. You know what I mean? They show you something and then that is applied to circumstance later in the movie.
Right. I mean, again, it's a great buildup. They really got me in that movie to really believe in it, and I was just very upset at the way that it ended. Like it just turned me off to the whole thing. I wouldn't watch it again now because how pissed I got at.
I wouldn't recommend anybody watch it, to be honest with you. If you really like John Krasinski or Emily Blunt, sure, go ahead and watch it. But there's not really a huge payoff. And if you wanted John Krasinski to live, spoiler alert, he dies super hard.
But like a man.
Yeah, he dies like a man. He's defending his family, which I really appreciated. Was it? It was that movie where one of the kids dies, right? Yes.
At the very beginning.
Because of the toy.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember if it was that or Bird Box. They're, again, very similar plot points and structure on those movies. Anyway, let's get back to the forgotten movie. So should that movie be remembered?
What, A Quiet Place?
Yeah.
No.
Decent one-time watch?
I think maybe if they make a sequel to it.
They are making a sequel to it.
And it actually is a really good movie. Maybe. I don't feel like it should be forgotten then.
I don't know what's going to happen because obviously you watch the movie for both John Krasinski and Emily Blunt.
Right.
So I don't know.
I would assume new cast.
Well,
new cast.
They could do a prequel. You know what I mean? Showing how they got to that point, but I think that would be kind of useless.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't show it up on IMDb anymore. Maybe they canceled the sequel. At one point, they did have A Quiet Place 2 on IMDb, or they were planning it. So that's fine with me if they don't make a sequel because it doesn't make much sense. They already know how to defeat them.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can do Mars Attacks type situation. Put some loud noise on the loudspeakers, have their heads explode. You know?
Right.
So you don't have a problem there. That's a movie that should really be forgotten.
Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks. It's a bad movie.
It is, but I mean, it won't be forgotten because it has that cult following to it.
It has that camp. I like the campy feel of it. Animation looks fucking terrible, and I get it. It's forgiven for the time and the budget that they were given, so it's understandable. But man, President Jack Nicholson, and then the Chihuahua on the Chihuahua head on the chick's body, and then the chick's head on the Chihuahua body. I was just like, even as a kid, I was like, that's stupid. That's really dumb. But I don't know. Next movie for me, let's see, what do I have? Oh, I have two in 2003. So 2003 apparently was a pretty decent movie for year.
Movie for year?
Yep. It was a pretty decent year for movies. I have The Last Samurai, another Tom Cruise movie we get to talk about.
I'm pretty sure we talked about that before on this podcast, and you know how my feelings on
The Last Samurai?
Yeah.
Yeah, briefly to go over it, it is same plot as Dances with Wolves, Pocahontas, and the highest grossing movie of all time, which I don't know if I told you the bad news. It looks like it's going to stay there, Avatar, as the highest grossing movie of all time. But it's man fights enemy, gets captured by enemy, learns enemy's way, falls in love with enemy, fights back against his fellow man.
Right.
And I thought it was done really well in a realistic setting. And I mean, I'm a sucker for Tom Cruise. I think he's a great actor. And in this movie, he was great. And I'm trying to remember his name. Damn it, I cannot remember his name. But in the movie, everyone did such a great job. Let's see. Look this up real quick. The Last Samurai.
Well, I mean,
Ken Watanabe. That's his name. I thought he was really, really good in it.
I think it's just a super okay movie. I think it'll be forgotten by time only for the reason that
it's already been forgotten by time. That's unfortunate.
But I don't think it's going to have a resurgence or anything like that because of Tom Cruise films, it's just not on the top tier. You know, it's kind of like how Born on the 4th of July or Cocktails or Days of Thunder are all movies that he starred in, and without those movies, he would not have the career he has now. But there's movies that are going to be forgotten because they're not his best. They're not the premier blockbusters that he's known for.
Well, you know what? It's crazy about
They're no Tropic Thunder.
What's crazy about his... yeah, Les Grossman. What's crazy about his career is that he hasn't done that many movies. When I looked it up earlier, I was kind of astonished. He's only done 44 movies. Mm-hmm. And with that, he's gained a following. But with The Last Samurai, he actually has Tom Cruise Day in Japan because of The Last Samurai. So they love him over there because of this movie. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. So it did cement at least that for him. So even if the movie's forgotten, Tom Cruise won't be forgotten by those people for, I think, as long as he lives. He's kind of got a pass with the Japanese people. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
My other one, you might agree with me a lot more on this one, but my other 2003 movie, Big Fish, with Ewan McGregor. Mm-hmm. Just a really kooky, weird, fun movie.
Again, like I mean, I talked about this with The Quiet Place, but I mean, a super immersive movie. You buy into it pretty quickly. I think. I mean, it might be a little slow in places, but
It is slow, but it's.
But you get invested into
If you're
it.
right, if you buy into the characters, it's not as slow as someone that's not bought into the characters. Someone hasn't bought into the characters and is watching the movie, they go, "Holy shit, I'm bored." But if you buy into the characters and you want to see the payoff for each of their stories, then you're in there. You know what I mean? So it's really, I mean, it's just such a fun movie to see his imagination kind of go wild with his grandfather's stories, and then to see that it was basically all true. You know, I thought that was really, really cool. The big fish at the end of Big Fish was just visually looks kind of janky now, but it's fine. It really works. I think one of the actors, the guy that had giantism, I think he's already passed away, but I thought he was really neat in his role. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, everything I liked about that movie, Ewan McGregor is just such a personable person. You know what I mean? Like, you like him. You see him on movies and you're like, I like that guy.
I mean, the only thing I will say about the movie is the reason why it probably, I mean, I would say is forgotten. It's so hard to determine what is forgotten and what isn't.
Because you can't take the pulse of what the general public would say they know and don't know.
But I mean, I assume the majority of people out there, when it comes to movies, they don't really care.
And that's what it hurts me, like thinking about that stuff. When I start talking to Sarah and I'm geeking out about a movie or something like that, she goes, "I don't care." You know what I mean? And like, it'll be a movie she liked, and she's like, I just don't care. I've talked to people that liked Avatar, and I'm talking about a specific moment in Avatar. They're like, "I don't remember that." I'm like, "Did you watch the movie?" I was like, kind of a big part.
Right. I mean, it's just so hard to gauge that, because I would say that if it hasn't come out in the last 10 years, it's probably forgotten with 90% of the audience out there.
I would have to agree with you. There's a few exceptions here and there, but it's the type of person you are.
Right.
You know what I mean? If you're a dad, you probably still remember Wild Hogs for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You think it's so cool. But it's just a weird thing. It just depends on who you are. Moms I guess moms would love Bad Moms. You know what I mean? They love that or Bridesmaids. You know what I mean? Those kind of movies might resonate more with them. It's who their target audience was at the time. I think it kind of follows them. But for us, you know, we're looking at the broad spectrum. We can watch chick flicks and we can watch badass action movies. We don't care as long as it's a good movie.
Right. We care about seeing a good story.
Right.
And that's what I care about in a lot of things I watch. Like,
I like Bad Moms.
Not just for movies and TV shows. I mean, I watch shows that have good stories in them. Like, I absolutely hate, like, although Seinfeld was, you know, a wonderful show and whatnot, it was an episode to episode show.
Yes,
it didn't really
it's like Family Guy,
right? I like those, I guess, because they're fun. Like, I can just put them on, and I don't really need to know what's going on. But if I'm watching a show, I want to have a long story. I want a drawn out story that I can really sink my teeth into.
I agree with you. I like something right in the middle, something like Brooklyn Nine-Nine or Superstore, which can be. It does have an overarching storyline for each of the characters,
right?
But it can also be taken episode by episode. You could jump somebody in and they wouldn't have to really, really know the characters to laugh and enjoy themselves.
Right.
Seinfeld doesn't matter what episode you get. It is a fresh episode for everybody. You know what I mean?
And I mean, it's just something that
some episodes just don't have some of the characters, like Newman.
It just bothers me, you know? Like, I enjoy movies with really good stories. And it really sucks when I get movies that are supposed to be. I'll give you a great example of that. I don't know. I don't care who argues with me, because a lot of people argue that this is a great movie. But John Carter. John Carter
of Mars is a great movie.
It's okay. It's super okay.
I think I extra like it because it was such a bomb. You know what I mean? And people just shit on it. They're like, fuck that movie. And I'm like, have you seen it? It's pretty good.
It's okay.
It is okay. I actually rewatched. They had it on, I think it was TNT the other day, and I rewatched it, and I was like, I remember the animation being this bad. And at the time, they didn't have a reason, because at the time, I think it was one of the most expensive movies.
Yeah. So they put a lot of money into that movie.
They really didn't have a reason for the animation to look that bad. It looked like, you know, the prequel trilogy of Star Wars bad.
Yeah.
But it's still a fun movie, and I like, what's his name, Taylor Kitsch? Kitch.
I do not remember his name.
I don't remember his name either, but I like that guy. I think he's a pretty good actor. The only other thing I know him from actually is Gambit from X-Men Origins Wolverine. So maybe he's not that good of an actor, but excuse me. But I enjoyed the movie for what it is, but I don't. That's one of those movies. Yeah, I can take it or leave it.
Yeah,
I don't think it should be remembered. But if you saw
pretty
it,
easily forgotten. I
you're
think
right, and it's one of those movies that if you forgot about it, oh well. I'm not going to be upset that you hadn't seen it, or if you saw it and you just don't remember the movie. Looper, that's another one along those lines. If you saw the movie, you liked it, and you don't remember it now, it's fine. It's a throwaway movie. There's a lot of movies that are like that, and there's some movies that are like almost seem like they're aimed towards that. They don't really. They just feel very generic. You know what I mean? They have a very similar storyline to a million other movies, and they don't have anything that cements them as its own thing. You know, and that sucks, but you know, it is the case. Like Fight Club, for example. I got a nice big poster of Fight Club behind you. Fight Club has a very intriguing premises. And then you watch it, and the way it's shot, the way it's done, the way it sets up for his cult, you know, hit me like I was just like, whoa, you know what I mean? I was just like, I didn't expect that at all.
Yeah.
And then the reveal of him and Brad Pitt's character being the same character just blew my mind. Thought it was excellent.
It's beautifully done.
Yeah, and but there's so it's few and far between. Most summer blockbusters are that movie. You know what I mean? Battleship. Who the fuck is saying Battleship is their favorite movie of all time, or that they remember every plot point of that movie? Nobody cares. There's a ton of Rampage. No, but you know what I mean.
Right.
There's just a lot of movies.
I mean, the new Independence Day that came out.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. That movie didn't have any heart in it. You know what I mean? It's Pacific Rim 2.
Yeah.
It didn't have any real drive. The first one was Guillermo del Toro showing us what a monster movie could be. And the second one goes, let's do some more monsters, guys. Let's not remember how the first one ended and how they solved the issue.
Speaking of monster movies, did you hear about the new Godzilla?
Yes.
I hear people are tearing it to shreds.
Really?
Yeah, I've heard a lot of bad reviews.
I've heard bad reviews, but I've also heard really, really good reviews. Like, it's a Godzilla movie. Yeah. People are like upset because there's no storyline in it. I'm like, you don't need a storyline. It's Godzilla. Like, I understand what Godzilla is, but apparently people got used to the last two American Godzillas, the Matthew Broderick one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And then the I guess Aaron Johnson one. I don't know if you'd call it a Bryan Cranston one.
It's just, it's not, it seems like they sink way too much money into that movie for what they're actually going to get on return with that type of movie they're putting out. You know what I mean?
I agree, and I think they went all out. I think this was a test movie. I think they went all out to see what their returns would be for investment. Mm-hmm. Because if they're going to do this, they also still want to do Kong versus Godzilla. They want to do all their monster movies. Is it a viable option?
Right.
So this was like their Hail Mary, like, let's put Godzilla and a crap load of his lore monsters against him and see if people react positively to it.
Right.
And I think it's made a decent amount of money. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's made its money back.
Oh, it has to have made its money back. Let's see. Godzilla. Here, keep going. I'll figure it out.
Well, forgotten movies, right? Talking about forgotten movies. I think a lot of Monty Python movies got forgotten.
Yeah, it made its money back. Oh, sorry. This is the 1998 one. Because I was like, $125 million budget. That's pretty cheap for a CGI, but it made $500 million. Uh-oh. That's not a good headline. The first thing I see is Forbes, how Godzilla can avoid becoming the next Justice League, which is not a good... Yeah, it says Godzilla vs. Kong may be delayed after disappointing box office of King of Monsters. Well, that's disappointing. That's super sad. Yeah, Warner Brothers is not getting very many hits on its hands. Well, no, it's made its money. So worldwide, it's made $300 million. Production budget was $170 million. Probably another $90 million on top of that for advertisement. So it's made its money back, but it's not giving back what they expected. They were probably expecting $900,000.
It's weird. It's weird to think about how they make money on movies. Like,
it's weird to think that someone invests that much money into a movie, that we've ballooned so far to where it's normal to see a $300 million box office juggernaut movie, and it's got to make $1 billion for everyone to be happy that made the movie,
right?
Which is insane. If we just said in the 90s, but let's say before Titanic came out, we need to make $1 billion to make a profit on this movie. They'd be like, what the hell? You know what I mean?
Right.
Now every huge blockbuster has to make $1 billion, or otherwise it's a failure. Doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it's crazy how much money they can make off of them, though. Like, it truly is. I mean, can you think of anywhere else where you'd make $1 billion faster?
You're talking about from movies to any other industry?
Yeah. Like, I mean, I don't even think music.
No, hell no. Music doesn't even come close. I don't think so, man.
I can't think of another industry that you could possibly be in. Like, even in trade, like...
Yeah, you're not making $1 billion in a couple of weekends. Yeah.
Right.
But, yeah, no.
It's utterly ridiculous. Is there any other movies from past you would like to talk about?
So I wanted to talk about one specific one, another Tom Cruise movie. But it's a 2010s movie, and it's the only 2010s movie. I was looking through a list of movies that came out in the 2010s, and I was like, everyone pretty much remembered all these. Then I stumbled upon one that I forgot was a movie, but I enjoyed it when I saw it, and that's Night and Day with him and Cameron Diaz, where he's this agent, and again,
super okay movie. Right,
it's a super okay movie, and but it's one of those movies, because you said, you shouldn't, these are movies that you shouldn't forget. But I think this is one of those ones that you can replace with other movies. Mm-hmm. It's interchangeable with a few other movies just like it. Very similar storyline, like, hey, you got to trust this guy. And then some government agent's like, hey, don't trust that guy. He used to be one of us. You know what I mean? And they're like, okay, it's that same old plot line. And then, you just want to see them end up together. So it was fine for what it was. It was fun. I very much enjoyed the movie, but I'm saying don't forget it in the sense that if you don't have one of those movies on your list, put this one on your list. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
I'm not saying this specific one was any kind of amazing.
If I was picking a movie out of the 2010s that I would say, is forgotten and shouldn't be forgotten, it was The Town. And The Town came out in 2010, and it's such a good movie.
Right.
And nobody talks about how great of a movie it was.
Well, it's almost like, I don't know if it's just Ben Affleck being blackballed or what, but his movies just, they hit, people enjoy them, and then they disappear off the radar. Right. People don't care. But I feel like it's almost the same way with Clint Eastwood for most of his movies. Because I would say most of his movies are very good, but there's only a couple that you can pick out that have not even stood the test of time, but get remembered by the vast majority. I think that'll be Ben Affleck once he's made more movies. Once he gets more. And it's unfortunate because some of the ones that are really, really good, just like we were talking about John Hughes, and I think Uncle Buck's a better movie than some of his other movies. I think that same thing. That movie just might not have been appreciated as much as the other ones. Just like if Ben Affleck comes out with a movie, 2 years from now and it's amazing and all this different stuff, then you're definitely really going to forget about The Town.
Right.
It's just one of those things, in my opinion.
I mean, The Town for me was it was so good. It wasn't his directorial debut. It wasn't his first one, but I think it was his first slam dunk. Gone Baby Gone was an okay movie. But because Ben Affleck didn't star in that movie and he actually had the lead role in this one, it showed the range that he could do while acting and directing at the same time.
So I thought, yes, I agree with you. I thought he did, because I always think it's so weird that they can direct a movie, because they have to be basically mentally behind the camera while they're acting in front of the camera.
Right.
And I want to say he wrote it also, or he helped write it, right?
The Town? I don't know if he did.
Yeah, he helped write the screenplay. Oh. So it's based on a novel called Prince of Thieves, which I did not know. But he helped write the screenplay, and it was really, really good. At the time, I remember because I saw it in theaters, and I thought it was okay. I couldn't understand their fucking accents.
Right.
And then when
I had that thick Boston accent.
Yeah, he had that thick fucking Boston accent. It's soft, So at the time I watched it and it was good for what I could understand.
Right.
And then I had rented it on Redbox or something.
Threw on the subtitles.
Yeah, threw on the subtitles. And then as I could see what they were saying, I was like, this is a really good movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, I really enjoyed that movie. It's, I would say, I would argue that it's better than Argo.
Was Argo directed by him?
Yep.
Okay, I thought it was just he was a producer.
No.
Let's see what movies he has. So he has, what the hell? Oh yeah, this is the one you were showing me. So his first movie has a 4.5. So glad it's forgotten, right?
Right.
But it's called "I Killed My Lesbian Wife, Hung Her on a Meat Hook, and Now I Have 3 Picture Deal at Disney." What the hell?
Yeah, that's a very interesting title.
It's an interesting title. Obviously, not that great of a movie. Is it starring John Hamm? No, it looks like John Hamm in the picture. That's weird. When did that come out? 1993. I was 3 years old. God, Ben Affleck's old. But okay, so he had Gone Baby Gone as his first real movie, and then Gimme Shelter, which doesn't even have a picture on IMDb. The Town, Argo, and Live by Night. Oh my God, I hated that movie.
You didn't like it?
I thought it was terrible. I totally forgot about that. That is a movie that I'm glad I forgot about.
I didn't mind it.
He's okay, but it's not a good movie.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't go around saying it's amazing by any means, but it was fine.
His next movie's called.
I watched it because it was Ben Affleck directing it. I mean,
well, see, yeah,
that's enough for me to watch a movie after Argo and The Town.
I think it sounds so weird, but I really like Ben Affleck.
Yeah, I have no problem with him. I don't get all the hate that he got for being Batman. Honestly, I was on board,
dude. I wasn't on board at the beginning. I wasn't hating on him. You know what I mean? I was just like, Ben Affleck is Batman. I was like, I hope he can get rid of that accent, and he did very well. He was the best on screen, and this is. Because before this, I didn't care for Ben Affleck. You know what I mean? Because like my picture of Ben Affleck was Daredevil. You know what I mean? He was just this super mediocre guy. I really liked him in Kevin Smith's movies. That's about it. And then I see Batman versus Superman, and he was the perfect Bruce Wayne. He had just the right amount of swagger and, you know, Richie cockiness without being pathetic. And he was a great Batman, and they did a great implementation of Batman. He didn't do that stupid throat cancer voice that Christian Bale did. He had a voice changer. That made sense. Why has no one thought about that? You know, everyone else in the old 90s Batmans and the Adam West one, he just talked in his normal voice, and like people didn't know that was Bruce Wayne.
You know, I'll make the argument. He was probably still is my favorite Batman.
For Ben Affleck.
Yeah, he's my favorite Batman, but still my favorite Bruce Wayne would be Michael Keaton. I think he did it the best.
See, that's fine. I'm okay with that argument because my biggest thing, and I told you earlier, I'm not a fan of Christian Bale, and that's fine if he is a good actor. Him as Bruce Wayne came off as kind of whiny. You know, he like when he tried to shoot what's his face for killing his parents. I don't remember what his last name. His last name was like Ice or Frost or something like that. They were trying to give him some cool name, but you know, him having that story arc, he kind of went out like a punk. Right. You know what I mean? When he's getting slapped around by Rachel and he's just like, oh, and then he goes into the diner to talk to that mob boss. And he's like, no gun, I'm insulted. And he's just kind of he's like thrown around, he's beat up, and it kind of diminishes the character of Bruce Wayne. And then as Batman, he was an okay Batman except for the voice. The voice was the biggest thing to ridicule in there.
Right.
I thought his Batman outfit was one of the best. That's not nothing to do with him, but as Batman, I think people always have a favorite, and a lot of older people that like Batman, they will say that Michael Keaton's their favorite. You know why they say that?
Because he was the first.
He was the first, right? There will always be the first for somebody. My first was Val Kilmer, so Val Kilmer for the longest time was my Batman, and I like the other Batman besides George Clooney. I like the other Batman, and you know, we were all copacetic, and then Ben Affleck was coming out, and I was like, I don't know about that. And then when I saw him in the movie, even though it is a terrible movie, both Batman vs. Superman and Justice League, very bad movies, he was really good. Yeah. As Bruce Wayne and Batman, except for Justice League when they gave him a couple like one-liners that Batman wouldn't say.
Yeah. The only parts of Justice League I've seen, I saw with you.
Yeah.
And
I
it
showed
was
you
the
the clips.
one fight.
And it looks terrible, right?
It's awful.
Yeah, I had to show you the
mustache.
The lack of mustache.
Yeah.
Yeah, it belonged to Mission Impossible, man. But my thing was, he was supposed to direct the Batman. He was supposed to write, direct, and star as the Batman, and I think that could have been his, his tour of force. You know what I mean? He would have been amazing.
Oh yeah.
And
It all depended on what villain they would have given him.
I don't honestly. Batman has such a good plethora of villains that they could have chosen from that it'd be hard. You'd have to really scrape the bottom of the barrel to give him a bad villain.
Well, I know you don't really pay attention to comics, but
Calendar Man.
No, Hush. He's astronomically big right now. The comic that just came out.
Didn't they just come out with an anime that was Hush?
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like, I heard that, but not in the past.
But it is so good. And if Ben Affleck would have got his hands on it, he could have done it so good. Because you know who I think would make a great Hush, the villain himself?
Who's that?
Matt Damon.
Why are you like this?
I'm being 100% serious.
Okay.
I think Matt Damon could pull it off well, and to have their on-screen chemistry that they do have in a comic book film like that, I think would have been amazing. They could have knocked it out of the park.
See, for me, and it sucks when you've cast someone in a comic book movie already, so it's hard for them to recover, because Ben Affleck always wanted to play Batman. He didn't want to do Daredevil. He just thought, this is my only chance to be in a superhero movie. I'm going to do it.
Right.
And then after Daredevil bombed, I think he did a cameo in Elektra, and then he was like, well, I'm never going to be Batman. And when they asked him to be, that older, already seen all the shit in Gotham gone down Batman, he was like, hell yeah. And then they put him in crappy movies again.
Yeah.
And he goes, this shit all over again? He goes, you guys just had the Christopher Nolan trilogy, which the third one's not very good, but, you just had this great trilogy as a whole story arc, and then you're going to put me in this? That's got to suck. That's really got to hurt.
Honestly, when you compare it to the other superhero trilogies, like if you throw Batman or Iron Man or Captain America, I would argue might have a trilogy there with Civil War and whatnot. Christopher Nolan's might be the best trilogy of a single superhero.
I agree to an extent. So I say yes, it is a good trilogy, and they're all good movies to some extent. But as the Batman character, they're horrible because they got killing Bruce Wayne's parents correct. Came out of the opera, got killed.
Right.
All right, and they got shot. They got Scarecrow pretty darn, a realistic Scarecrow.
Yeah, he was a great opening villain.
Harvey Dent, horrible. The oil burn, and then him just screaming Rachel from his hospital bed and dying immediately, 30 minutes later.
I think what suffered from there is they tried to make him too realistic.
Right. That's what I'm saying. They try to do this realistic
If they
take.
tried a little more cartoony with him, I feel like it would have gone over a little bit better. But the hard part of doing that is you had Joker in that movie, and the way that Heath Ledger played him was the anarchist version of the Joker.
Right.
And it's hard to have a cartoony Two-Face when you got a brutal Joker it should be the opposite way.
I 100% agree, but just the way they went about his character, I wasn't crazy about.
Right.
Not the Joker. The Joker, I thought, was a very good take on the Joker. Same thing with the world they set up was a good take on Batman. It wasn't a problem with the first two movies because they kept it nice and dark. The third movie, they have him fighting in midday, and I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. He couldn't sneak up on anybody. But Bane is a really great character from the anime, and I'm assuming the cartoons, and then
The animated series.
I'm assuming
The
comics. I don't know, because like Harley Quinn was introduced in the animated series, and then she was added to the comic books. I don't know what Bane's story is in the comic books, but he's a Mexican luchador wrestler that has a serum that makes him huge and veiny and just absolutely demolishes Batman.
Serum that he created because he's that smart. That's
Right.
another thing they don't perceive very well in that movie.
Well,
or in any...
in any iteration of Bane, the first one, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not nearly as bad as the 90s one with George Clooney, but that Bane at least looked the part, but he was just an idiot henchman, which was stupid. But with this one, he was like a British guy, nobody cared until I put on the mask, and I was like, this is Bane. And Tom Hardy, great. I don't have a problem with the casting choice, but the voice and why did he have the mask?
Right.
All they said is that when he doesn't have it, he's in a lot of pain. That's basically what they hinted at, and nothing else. That was it. So I don't know.
They should have had that reveal in that movie, I think. Him knocking off the mask.
Yeah. They should have had something. They could have had like some scars or something underneath.
Because they killed off Bane, they should have had that.
Well, see, and that was one of those things, a build up to nothing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because I think Catwoman blows up the wall and like knocks him into the wall, and then he's just dead. And then this is the bad guy all along, the chick.
Right.
And I was like, really? She's like, I'm Talia al Ghul. You might know my father. And I'm like, what? But the biggest travesty of that trilogy, because I'm a huge fan of Robin. So when they had Joseph Gordon-Levitt playing Robin, not as Dick Grayson, but as some guy actually named Robin, I thought that was the stupidest shit. And I wanted to boo, and everyone was cheering in the theater. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And I get it. Like you were saying earlier, the collective audience doesn't care.
Right.
They want the reference. They want the name. You know what I mean? So, because I forget what his name was in the movie. He was a police officer. He's not even a gymnast or anything. He was a police officer, and he goes to pick up something that was left from Bruce Wayne, and like, this isn't for anything. He goes, oh, here's my real name, and he gives him the driver's license. She goes, you should use that, Robin. And everybody's like, yeah, and I'm like, no. I'm sitting there like freaking the hell out. Now, excuse me, they could have redeemed themselves a little bit had he gone down in the Batcave, and instead of implying that he'd be the new Batman, which was stupid, if he had created him a new suit that had a
R on it, or
if it had an R, that'd be really cool, and if it was like reddish tinted. But that would just be, I think, a little bit more of a stretch for that. Like you were saying with Two-Face, be a little bit more of a stretch for that universe. But if they had the Nightwing suit, like a subtle blue bird going across the chest with a full black suit, I think that would have been really cool. But they just,
he could have been a great Nightwing.
I see, but that's what I'm saying. For the whole point of saying that was to get to this. If Ben Affleck had made a Batman movie, I really, really would have enjoyed a Batman Beyond movie where he plays old Bruce Wayne and Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays Terry McGinnis.
Yeah,
I think that would be really, really cool. And you could do an old Joker at that point, so you could have another take on the Joker from an actor that you think could handle that.
Mark Hamill.
That'd be amazing. If you could get, Mark Hamill's the perfect age. If you put Mark Hamill in that slick back, thinning green hair, you know what I mean? That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
I'm not against that idea at all. Let's pitch it to DC. They don't know what the hell they're doing.
Right.
They'll pick it up.
They need all the help they can get at this point.
Yeah. Oh, did you hear, last thing before we get out of here, did you hear about the Swamp Thing? So it was an actually interesting DC property that I was thinking about paying for DC service to watch.
Yeah.
They canceled it after the pilot episode. I said, are you fucking kidding me? Like, you're going to greenlit Batwoman for the CW, which looks fucking terrible. Just all sorts of social justice warrior shit going on with that. Like, I think this is a job for Batman. Well, even better, because I'm a woman. And I'm like, like the cringiness of the line delivery and everything. There's a way to handle that sort of situation.
Right.
But they don't do it. And I think it's more on the CW's writers than it is of the original material. But I'm just like, you give that a green light. But the Swamp Thing that actually looked genuinely like horrifying, and I wanted to tune into your shit to see, you take away. But I might still subscribe to their stuff to see Doom Patrol with Brendan Fraser. I think that looks pretty cool.
It could be.
It could be. I love... sorry, guys. We're all over the place today. We meant to stay on a topic, but this is a podcast. We're going to just talk about movies and TV shows. Yeah. We've been interrupted multiple times. So if you saw the camera cut, it's probably answering the door or answering the door or answering the phone or answering the door again, because it's just been one of those kind of days. But overall, pretty enjoyable podcast for me. Tim's just staring me down. He's giving me that death stare. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are listening to this on audio, you can't see that he's literally about to murder me.
Right here.
If you guys don't hear
in
from
studio.
Live via satellite. If you guys don't hear from me next week, Tim killed me.
That's probably not true.
But anyway.
We still have a 6 degrees, right?
Yeah. We got to do 6 degrees of separation. Then we are out of here.
Okay. Do you have any idea?
Yeah, actually. I do have an idea.
All right.
Matthew McConaughey.
Lawrence Fishburne.
Cool.
Cool.
All right. Am I going first?
Go right ahead.
All right. Lawrence Fishburne was in John Wick Chapter 2 with Keanu Reeves.
Go ahead. Keep going.
What?
You were asking, or you weren't asking, but you couldn't think of any other movies with Lawrence Fishburne in it besides The Matrix, and and I give you John Wick Chapter 2, and you're like,
And I go with Keanu Reeves anyway. Yeah, my bad. It took John Wick for my idea to pop in my head. Anyway, so Lawrence Fishburne to Keanu Reeves in John Wick Chapter 2.
Okay.
Keanu Reeves to Robert Downey Jr. in A Scanner Darkly. Robert Downey Jr. to Matthew McConaughey in Tropic Thunder.
It's funny, I also used Tropic Thunder. Matthew McConaughey was in Tropic Thunder with Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise was in Jerry Maguire with Cuba Gooding Jr. Cuba Gooding Jr. was in Boys in the Hood with Lawrence Fishburne.
Oh, well, at least we had a little bit of a difference. All right, well, if you can beat us, or in this case, match us, because there's not going to be beating us unless they're in the same movie together, or you can get it in 2 moves. But if you can match us, hit us up on Facebook, let us know, and we'll give you a shout out on the next show. We have yet to have a challenger, which is really upsetting. But it's really neat. So that first challenger, man, we invite you. Bring it on.
It was going to be Mike, and then he bailed on us.
He dipped.
He dipped.
He dipped. But anyway, we will see you guys next week. If not, we could see you guys this weekend for a special dad episode of the Real Underrated podcast. So maybe keep an eye on that.
Maybe. No promises.
Yeah, no promises. We never keep promises.
Nah. All right, don't die, everybody.